Warning: this video covers serious topics of violence and law enforcement scenes that may be disturbing or unsuitable for some viewers. All depictions, events, locations, and persons in the video game Ready or Not are purely fictional, but may still appear intense to some viewers. Mentions of real-world events are purely for educational purposes and do not serve to mock or minimize national tragedy. Viewer discretion is advised. Have you ever wanted a game that mirrors the effects of caffeine? Well, you came to the right place. Because this game will wake you up in seconds and keep you up for hours, too. Ready or not? Here it comes. Ready or Not is a SWAT simulator on the surface, but that's like saying PT Silent Hills is a walking simulator. Ready or Not is a special kind of horror game. It was accidental, and still to this day, it's rare that people acknowledge it as horror. So rare that this video is probably 1 out of like 4 on YouTube talking about it, so consider yourself special to land on a specific corner of the internet. Welcome to the Ghost Club. So how does this game even accidentally become horror? Well, Ready or Not, as I said, is a SWAT sim, but not just mechanically. You see, Void Interactive set out with a complex goal in mind. They aimed to make a spiritual successor of sorts to SWAT 4, the greatest SWAT sim of all time up until that point. But not just a cheap recreation with a facelift, no. They wanted to dethrone the king, with a realistically grounded story and levels simulating real-life tragedies without disrespecting victims with things like comedic relief. So how does that boil down? Living hell. This game starts with you plopped in a police station. It acts kinda like a hub world. The atmosphere is serious and depressing here, set in the fictional city of Los Sueños, California. You work as a leader in a SWAT team called D Platoon, and knowing this is set in California should really set the tone for the kinds of crime that we'll be fighting here. Drug cartels, terrorism, human trafficking, illicit sale of firearms, illegal data storage, and political crime slather this city in a crimson trail of pain and suffering.
I guess that means you're in trouble.
Los Sueños crime has gotten so bad, in fact, that private security for transport services like banks have stopped delivering, and even the garbage collectors have gone on strike. So the place stinks, no one uses online banking, and to top it off, the police station you work at has been defunded due to some previous wrongdoings from the facility. We get a hint about these wrongdoings all throughout the campaign. We'll go over some, but there's a whole lot more lore that won't be covered in this video. If you're the detective type, or ARG type, there is plenty to find in this game. So if that's your jam, maybe stay spoiler free on this one.
You should come play with us for a change.
No, I'll pass.
But for the sake of the video's theme, I'm gonna ignore most of the lore in the background, because most of what you've already heard is all you'll need to know to understand how this game crafts horror. Exploring the police station, there's an armory, range, evidence room, and the briefing room, of course, where you'll be starting your levels. This is done by picking a file off of the desk. Now here is the good stuff. You have a map, of course, showing you the plot of the building. Detail varies with each level. Sometimes you get a full blueprint or floor plan, and sometimes you just get a sketch of the layout. This not only means going in blind most of the time, but also having inaccurate or out-of-date floor plans. Here's your team menu, where you can manage officers. It's worth noting here that this isn't just characters with abilities that are cycled through every now and then. These abilities are actually earned, and this starts with a unique mechanic that this game has, where officers have a mental health status that actually diminishes to different levels based on how poorly a day on the job went for them. If they're having mental health issues, you'll actually have to send them to therapy, and they'll have to be off of work for a couple of days.
You're not looking too sharp. Need to talk?
Therapy has limited availability too, and what's worse than being stressed out from your job? Death. Dying. It's dying. So yeah, your officers can be killed in action, and that sucks because if your officers survive, then they actually obtain a new skill for staying stress-free. It's honestly never a big issue in the game because you can just fire mentally unwell police and hire new ones like nothing. But honestly, if you're comfortable with just firing everyone when they lose their mind, maybe the true horror lives within your mirror.
That's pretty lame. Not to mention twisted.
So yeah, our AI buddies actually matter to the player.
Place doesn't feel the same without Bradford.
And of course, I saved the best for last. Here's the briefing material. If the squad having a mental health bar and maps being realistic depictions weren't enough immersion for you, here's a menu dedicated to immersion material. Here you get photos from security cameras, screenshots of social media posts, cell phone calls including 911 calls, and of course, a fully voice-acted briefing including the occasional emotional breaks, and even some questions your squad may ask their leader. This can really add to your nerves while playing sometimes, especially hearing some of the 911 calls in this game.
I'm on a boat. There was supposed to be a party, but it's not. I didn't want to stay, but they carried me on board. I don't know where we are or where they're taking us, but these men, they're horrible. There's guns and drugs, and they tried to with me, but I ran away.
Okay, ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to calm down.
And now, I just want to take a moment to commend this indie game for sticking to traditional voice acting instead of using AI. Because these voice acting performances have so much heart put into them across the board. Some of these got me a little emotional too. If you ever heard a real 911 call from a tragedy, they sound eerily similar. And when you're ready to get on with it, the immersion continues. I love this loading screen. It's even dynamic, depending on both the gear for your team and the method of transportation you take to get on site. Though you'll never really see this unless you have the Dark Waters DLC, it's still a pretty cool touch. So the first horror element I want to talk about kinda links back to my Interior Worlds video, and you can probably piece it together by now if you've already watched that video. This game is literally all about one of the most terrifying jobs on the planet, fighting crime. And what's scarier than crime? You'll see yourself in various real-world scenarios straight out of true crime body cam videos that you watch while painting your nails. Unrelatable? Not my fault. Start painting your nails, doofus. We'll talk about specifics later, but for now, I want to show you some other mechanics and design choices that really amplify how scary this game is. First of all, this game's violence is both graphically realistic and mechanically realistic, something that's pretty rare for your average first-person shooter. If you get shot without wearing any armor, there's a big chance you'll just immediately die. And if you bleed profusely, you'll need to bandage yourself. There are no health pickups, no squad medic, no regeneration. Once you lose all the blood in your body, your heart stops beating. Simple as that. And like I mentioned, this game realistically displays violence too. Realistic gore is an obvious choice, but another cool touch that makes this game the most terrifying to me is the effect when you get shot. Since getting shot is practically a jump scare, not only will it scare you in the moment, but it will also make you more perceptive as a player over time. But trust me, this feeling never deludes. No matter how long you play, getting shot will always make you jump. The screen gets all bright and blurry, and your player character slows down for a short period of time. So no tacky blood effects on the corner of the screen. It's almost like a simulation of getting shot, and definitely serves the purpose of disorienting the player. Gunshots being a realistic volume also will just make you jump every time a shot is fired, and trust me, there's a lot of shooting in this game. The sound design in general is just fantastic in this game. And it's really complemented by the spatialized audio if you're wearing headphones, both for combat situations and also for the general creep factor, just walking around these places. Even stuff like flashbangs and tear gas have realistic screen effects, and disorient the player just as effectively. If not, I'd argue even more. I'd also argue that this strong emphasis on gamifying pain and fear really sells the immersive grip that this game constantly has at your throat. And if this level of immersion still isn't enough to scare you in the moment, the game takes place right at the same locales that you're used to seeing in true crime. Of course, with unpredictable criminals and a team of highly trained professionals. And these maps are just oozing with detail that makes these spaces look very lived in and feel very lived in. Like I mentioned in my previous video, the more realistic a place looks, the more realistic it's gonna feel. But not only how realistic it looks, but how realistic it sounds. And with this perfect blend of detailed visuals and very good sound design, this game is just so immersive. Seriously. Putting on my headphones, I feel like I'm transported there. But now's the part of the video where I dissect some of my favorite levels in the game and show you some stuff that really creeped the shit out of me while playing. This level is probably the best one that they could have used to introduce the player to the game and its mechanics. Kind of ironic considering my first two horror videos on this channel both start with a gas station. So yeah, a gas station burglary by some armed young adults. The motive? Supporting their drug addiction. Sometimes you can even hear some of them talking about a gang called Los Locos. We hear this gang come up quite a bit in this game, so get used to it. We get to listen to some 911 calls, including a call from a mother.
911, what's your emergency?
Hello, my name is Charlotte Layton. I'm at a gas station and need help right now.
Ma'am, are you at the 4
you gas station on 5th and Van Drake South Side?
Yes! Please help! I got separated from my daughter, Crystal. They're shooting people.
Okay, I need you to listen to me carefully, okay? Follow my instructions.
And a call from the manager, Mudasir.
911, what's your emergency?
I'm being robbed!
Okay, try to remain calm for me, sir. Where's the robbery taking place?
The foil gas station on 5th and Van Drake. Southside. They have got it. They started shooting.
Officers are on the way, sir. I need you to get somewhere safe, okay?
As the report insists, we find the mother's child and end up saving her. This immediately communicates to the player that yes, there's some pretty rough material in this game that will be presented to the player. Mudasir, on the other hand, unfortunately failed to hide or defend himself. This makes the player reflect and start to get used to the idea that not everyone can be saved. Carrying over this trend, we also find a veteran and his service dog unable to be saved either. If you're like me, this probably makes you furious. And I find that this unbridled fury of what these criminals leave behind really helps to immerse you into the feeling of vengeance for society. These moments can make you feel connected to this fictional place, feeling almost like each mission serves as a surrogate to feel like you're cleaning up the streets and improving the lives of people in your community. It can almost even get addictive. But no matter how great this level is at introducing these feelings to the player early on, there's really not much else to talk about here. Gang violence is scary, and seeing how much these young adults are willing to do just to get their next fix is kind of unsettling. But trust me, it gets much worse. This level takes place in an affordable housing project, where some meth labs and storage units are found. It seems that Los Locos are responsible for this, and we see the damage that they've done to this small community of poor people. There are meth labs next to places people sleep, and some civilians appear to be under the influence. Later in the mission, we even find a child on a bed. Yeah. I even got stabbed in the back by her mother and almost died recording this, which freaked the piss out of me. Later on, the player even discovers this underground tunnel carved out by the drug addicts, seemingly because they were simply told to find this weird bug by the Los Locos to keep the addicts out of their hair. Terrifying, huh? Make sure to bring your flashlight. This level, part of the Home Invasion DLC, is another Los Locos investigation, and yet another affordable housing project. This time, it seems an undercover agent working with the Los Locos to investigate had his cover blown. If you know anything about organized crime, you can probably tell where this is going. It's kind of interesting playing GTA San Andreas and then playing this, because this was literally the premise of the end of the story for San Andreas. It's also just an interesting perspective, seeing the other side of gang violence. It's much scarier from this perspective. Our mission is to apprehend the suspects, keep all civilians in the town safe, and of course, save the undercover detective. We start at the agent's house, where several tools of torture, the head of a pig, and a trail of blood are found. And we know that this gang is ruthless, so who knows what they're gonna do when they get their hands on this detective trying to put them all in prison. This level starts to pick up the pace on violence and danger. These aren't small-time hustlers robbing a gas station for crack money. No, these are fully armored gangsters shooting anything that moves in a huge open suburb. I almost died multiple times playing this level. Open areas are your biggest enemy in this game. Following this trail of blood, we eventually find our detective, and holy shit, this was a very disturbing sight to see. You're really lucky that I'm blurring this out. He's completely naked, covered head to toe in deep lacerations, and to top it off, his eyes are gouged out. We also find yet another deceased dog in a house with tons of dog toys and heartfelt photographs. This really made me tear up when I played this mission for the first time, and it still kind of gets me. These two dogs are a sick reminder that humans aren't the only family members in danger of crime. You know, I'm starting to realize this video is not going to be easy. We get a mysterious phone call from a popular live streamer, and I'll let him do the talking.
911, what is your emergency?
My name is Michael Williams. I'm currently in apartment 14 in the San Uriel condominiums with my piece of shit brother. I'm calling you because I've my mother. I'm going to my brother. And then I'm going to myself. So don't come in.
Okay, sir, stay with me. I would like to...
Don't tell me what to do!
A strange call for sure. Something isn't right. Upon entering the scene, there can even be some gunshots heard if your team makes too much noise. At first, you may suspect that it's the streamer, but later we find him peacefully in his apartment, across from his mother. and brother who are alive and healthy. This level is a new kind of crime that many watching should be familiar with: swatting. Can't have a modern SWAT game without a mission like this. However, upon investigating, we find illegal material involving miners in his room, and I'm not talking about pirated versions of Minecraft, along with an illegal crypto mining plant too. Here I'm just gonna add a small note. Crypto mining isn't illegal in the state of California, so I'm not sure why this is considered illegal in Ready or Not. It could be the fact that this is a mining operation that's being used to launder illegal earnings, or more likely, could be considered evidence for dirty money tied to the transaction involved with that material that we found in the streamer's room. There isn't much here that's scary other than the shots fired, which are from the Los Locos, apparently involved in the crypto mine. And if you think this is the end of endangered children in this game, you're sorely mistaken. It gets so much worse. As the name implies, this is a direct sequel to The Last Mission. After tracing IP information, we find ourselves at the data center for an anonymous message board called MindJot, responsible for the transaction of illicit materials. Interesting that I talk about this in the video because at the time of recording, 4chan was actually recently attacked. Just kind of interesting, I guess. I can't get it off of my mind. It's crazy. Anyways, we have a warrant to collect evidence, so it sounds like a walk in the park. Just go in and go out with the evidence. Simple enough, right? Yeah, no. Nothing is that simple in this game. Apparently, the MindJot data center has been recently robbed by people pretending to be law enforcement. So now all the guards here think that we are criminals. So this leads to a very unnecessary gunfight. That's kind of all for this one. Nothing too crazy. But man, it really fucks with your head. These security guys are trying to kill us, but they're genuinely scared for their lives. And it kind of provided a whole new perspective to me about security operations. Following this story, seized assets from the data center linked to a business called Brixley Talent Time, a talent agency in a poor neighborhood called The Row, operated by struggling military veteran George Brixley. The Row is likely a reference to Central City East, a real neighborhood in California. It's an extremely impoverished area in Los Angeles named Skid Row by its residents. We quickly find out that this is a children's talent agency, and the deeper we go, the more our stomach starts to churn. There are even parents on scene who seem completely oblivious to what's going on here, but thankfully, their children aren't present. But we find out that this isn't a talent agency. It's a trafficking checkpoint in disguise to lure poor parents into giving personal information to Brixley about their children in hopes of their children seeing success in their lives. We can see this later in the level, with photographs of children, addresses, full names, and descriptions of things that they enjoy in a place called the Smile Room. Ugh. This wouldn't be out of place from your average talent agency, but knowing this information is just siphoned into a human trafficking ring, it takes on a much different tone. And of course, Brixley is not going down without a fight. Him and his guards are armed, and they're all ex-military. So be prepared for a really greasy battle. Thankfully, like I mentioned before, there are no children on site at arrival. But the pressure from all the surrounding material really intensifies this fight and everything that this building stands for. But after it's all done, we wrap up. So we got the buyer, the distributor, and the creator of this illicit material. But what about the man profiting off of all of it? Taking a stark turn from the poor to the rich, we find a link to the Vole residence. Amos Vole, father of Janie Vole, and husband of Daniela Vole. He's an adult film star and director, along with his wife, who is also an adult film star. And he's also a self-proclaimed philanthropist, but we'll quickly find out that that's definitely a cover-up. So this one should be easy. Go in, arrest Vole, and obtain the illicit material. Well, not so fast. Not only does Vole have security, rich bastard, but also it just so happens to be his daughter's 18th birthday on the day that we have to investigate, and if we wait any longer, the evidence could be destroyed. Now, arresting and ensuring the safety of partygoers outside is easy, but inside the Vole residence, not so much. But before even going inside, some red flags start waving and telling us that this definitely is the guy that we're looking for. At the party, we find that he instructed partygoers to compete in a feet picks competition. Ugh. We also see a presentation or video of his daughter in a pose that isn't suggestive on its own, but looking around the house and seeing how sexual everything is, we start to get a hint that this isn't innocent. We also see that Amos has already attempted to destroy the evidence. It's possible to find hard drives burning in boxes or in bathtubs, but trust me, this is nowhere close to as bad as it gets. As later, we find an underground bunker home to a red room, with photographs of children and rooms set up for taking care of children. There's even a crib here. Delving further, your platoon will meet 2 rooms that will haunt my memory until the day I die. A room full of photographs of a young Janie Vole with the writings of Amos Vole, who is obsessed with his daughter's purity. Another room, an extremely grim sight. Barrels packed with acid and children's clothing. It's likely that Vole decided that this was the best course of action to dispose his trafficking ring. It's a chilling reminder that law enforcement can only prevent further crimes, and justice will never truly be served to all the children in situations like this. This level is likely based off the events of the Ruby Ridge standoff, but not an exact replication of the events that unfolded. There are even some subtle references to the Unabomber, and I'm not going to tell you any information about either of these events because YouTube really doesn't like people talking about them, so research on your own. Anyways, the important thing is we have a warrant for the arrest of Gerard Scott, a discharged USIA agent. USIA being this game's version of the CIA. In case you didn't know, similar to why we can't depict medical agencies in video games like Red Cross, many games including GTA have opted to make parodies of law enforcement agencies to protect themselves from scrutiny and possible lawsuits. An example of this is in GTA. The FIB is GTA's version of the FBI. So yeah, this game's version of the CIA is the USIA, so just remember that going forward. Anyways, our warrant is from a suspected murder of 5 police officers, and it seems like our visit was all part of the plan too. As entering, we quickly realize that this is the house of a madman. We see crude sketches of SWAT and police units with marked weak spots, and ramblings written on the wall about what appears to be a USIA conspiracy theory. And if that wasn't scary enough, Gerard and his goons have booby-trapped this place, making it the player's first encounter with traps in the game. Opening a trap door without disarming bombs will end in the whole platoon dying, resulting in a game-ending jump scare in more ways than one.
Objectives failed. This one's a wash. Report to TOC for debrief. TOC here. Notifying trailers.
We also find a ricin lab, where Gerard appears to be making an extremely deadly chemical called ricin. It seems his next step was to bring this straight to the police station and wipe out the whole police force, so we're lucky to have gotten here first. It also appears Gerard is struggling to find nutrients living off the grid, as a skinned animal lays on his kitchen table. Ugh. I'm gonna have to tread lightly here. Elephant is likely a reference to the movie of the same name, and if you watched it, you know what we're in for. An active shooting is reported in a community college, and we have to put a stop to the shooters. This level is easily one of the most disturbing to me, and it's very relatable simply on premise. A study from 2019 reported that 1 out of 20 students from ages 12 to 18 in the United States feel unsafe on their public campus. Gun violence and bomb threats being the elephant in the room. This level is uncomfortably realistic, taking place in the fictional Watt Community College, which is the same name as the high school in the movie Elephant. It's difficult to talk about some topics in this game because they went a little overboard with realism. Suspects are unknown, and witnesses only report a couple of shooters, but we quickly find out that there are many more than what were reported. Going forward, you'll hear a faint beeping. The campus has 2 rigged explosives in the building, and they're timed to explode after 18 minutes. And it's not like this timer starts when you discover the bombs either. The clock starts ticking in the background the moment you arrive on site, and this detail isn't in your briefing. Though many players have ignorantly complained about this mission having so much information incorrect in the briefing, this is by design. It's very rare that law enforcement gains any knowledge of these details until it's too late. And the case is often that SWAT teams are rushed out to take care of active shooters on campus with nothing but what they're wearing at the time. And of course, whatever weapons are already in their vans. This level is terrifying, and I don't think I have to say much more to prove my point. Another detail is that this is the only mission in the game where you can S rank and still end up having to send all of your officers to therapy. The US military has sent airstrikes to a village in Yemen housing known terrorists from the group The Hand, causing them to revolt and attack the Neon nightclub in Los Sueños. This mission is likely based off the shooting that occurred at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida, complete with culture war and religious beliefs spewed by the terrorists. This is by far the most brutal and on-the-nose depiction of a real-world event that I honestly don't even want to talk about it or show any of it, mostly since I really can't on YouTube. All you have to know is that this whole level is an extremely gruesome sight of bodies piled up at exits with a very intense standoff in multiple large rooms and stairwells. If you're new to close quarters battle, stairs in large halls are fucking terrifying to be in for more than a moment, because they're points of disadvantage. It's very likely that you'll expose yourself to the enemy in these areas, since people at the other end will have the vantage point until you end up crossing the area. Now, after all that, you may fall under the assumption that Ready or Not is police propaganda, and only shows the valiant rescuing the defenseless. But unlike SWAT 4, this is not the case. We went over some levels that are terrifying to play, but now let's move on to some levels that are just uncomfortable to do, as one of my favorite horror tactics is instilling guilt onto the player. These feelings are the ones that stick after all. I wanted to start with this level because this level starts without remorse. We're told in briefing that an officer's dead body was found in the driveway of Cherryessa Farm. It's our team's job to investigate the area and detain possible subjects. We're also briefly notified there's some sort of cult activity at the farm, run by Elaine Raskin, another former USIA agent. It seems like something's happening at the USIA to make these fuckers go nuts. There's a whole lot of cult imagery here, revolving around feminism. The cultists appear to have short haircuts, and some even wear masks of an unidentified Greek goddess. We also see modified versions of the female gender symbol being used quite a bit. Some sacrificial burials and a makeshift church add to the horror here, but that all comes to a crashing halt as we find the art room. Here we can start to piece together that the point of the cult is a lot more serious than we thought. These aren't crazy women confiding in each other and just killing random men. These are women that are all victims of sexual assault, whose legal reports have all been ignored. We can piece together that the aim of this cult is for them to take justice into their own hands and kill these men who assaulted them. Bearers of the mask are presumably women who have yet to kill their assaulters. And that police officer found dead at the property starts to make us wonder, was he one of the officers who ignored the reports? Or did he assault one of these women himself? Suddenly, we severely regret coming here, as we just tore down the support group of many victims of the most heinous crime, and saved the lives of those who are still walking. This is an extremely uncomfortable mission, and it's the first of the Home Invasion DLC. A hurricane has caused a large homeless population to take refuge in an abandoned dormitory. Structural integrity of the building has caused it to be extremely unsafe, and it's our job to save them. But we aren't doing that, are we? I can't think of many situations where evicting the homeless helps them, especially in a building that's already been abandoned. Our only purpose in this mission is to ruin their lives, tear down everything that they've called their home, and the rest is never mentioned. It's a very unsatisfying level, and I don't typically revisit it since it just makes me feel terrible, especially knowing that in this state that Los Sueños is in, they're likely gonna end up back in the row, fighting for their lives every day in this crime-ridden nightmare. Ends of the Earth has us confiscating illegal firearms and firearm modifications from a house on the beach, selling them to criminals. This doesn't sound too bad until we're told more details. It appears that these firearms and modifications are being 3D printed and sold by the brothers Antron and Vintron to the Los Locos, and their motive is extremely unfortunate. They're just trying to make large amounts of money quickly to fund their mother's cancer treatment. This obviously means that in completing this mission, we're tearing this family apart. The mother will likely die by our hand indirectly, and these two sons will likely never see their mother in her final moments. I mean, it just really chips away at your soul, because this probably happens often in real life. I mean, hell, they made a whole frickin' show about it.
You got me.
This is such an intense mission, I really can't even show any of it, so hi. Get used to seeing this. Just basically imagine the worst human trafficking ring that you can think of, with a subtle indication that the USIA had some part in it. Your superiors even argue back and forth through this mission, making you think back about a lethal obsession and Carriers of the Vine and what's really going on with the USIA.
That's interesting. I certainly wasn't expecting this.
Yeah, I think I got my point across. Though this game isn't intended to be a horror game, there are so many elements of horror at play here, and so much familiarity that it's hard not to see that this game is a horror game. And the title of this game really sums up the general experience. This game doesn't wait for you. The AI is fierce. Depictions of crime are apologetic yet unrelenting. Ready or not, this game will break you. Thank you so much for sticking with me and watching till the end. I recognize this may have been a hard watch for some of you, and the serious nature of this video is far from my normal stuff, so please don't let it turn you off. But I really wanted to make a video about this topic since no one else really is, and I love exploring unintended horror in video games. If you enjoyed watching, you already know what to do, and if you have any cool theories about this game, please let me know down below in the comments. Half the fun in this game for me was piecing together the lore, so I'd like to know more about it that maybe isn't already on a wiki. Well, that's it. The end of the video. I'd love to stay, but this couch is just too comfy. Peace and love from the grave, and I'll see you in the next one.